Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melisa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about something super interesting. The IAASB has released its plans for how it plans to update the ICEs for LCE. So over in Europe and internationally, we have seen the proliferation of sort of big gap, little gap, big gas, little gas. So they have frameworks like ISA for LCE, which are audit standards specifically for less complex entities, similar to how they have accounting standards for less complex entities as well. And so as a result, we have seen a focus on, well, how often are we going to update this? So when we look at it from a financial reporting perspective, they said we're not updating it every time we issue a new IFRS statement, right? That's not going to work. So we're going to do this periodically. And they've done it twice now, very successfully incorporating it. But for the most part, they try to leave it alone and let it work. And always you can go look at, obviously, full GAAP if you need it. On the other hand here, when we look at the ISAs, right, these are the audit standards. And so the IAASB is responsible for ensuring that the audits still give reasonable assurance because it's no difference between the full ISAs and ISAs for LCEs. So in December, they issued a document called The Approach for Maintaining the International Standards on Auditing for Auditing of Financial Statements of Less Complex Entities, or ISA for LCE for short. Definitely need that. So the original ISA for LCE came out in 2023. And again, this is standalone. So you don't have to use this in conjunction with the full ISAs. This should be enough that if you were doing an audit of a very small organization, that you would be able to do the audit using just this small GAAS. And so it's proportionate, tailored to the specific needs of audits of these less complex entities. And so we often refer to this as little GAAS. Now, it is still reasonable assurance, right? It still gives confidence that the financial statements are appropriate, right? It's still going to help drive consistency and comparability globally. Obviously, we don't recognize them. Well, it's not that we don't recognize them here, but we have our own GAAP and GAAS here in the United States. And we currently don't have little GAAP or little GAAS in the United States. We do have the Private Company Council, but they do not write a standalone GAAP. And obviously, small firms are invited to participate on the Auditing Standards Board. But again, we don't have small GAAS either. So what was the purpose of doing this? The question was raised, obviously. How do we update these as the audit standards get updated? And obviously, audit standards don't get updated as frequently as financial reporting standards. You know, it's not uncommon. I think last year we had 12 changes in ASUs issued. We don't see that in the audit world. We'll see one or two, maybe sometimes none, a year. And so as a result, what is the framework going to be for the IAASB when updating the ISAs for LCE? So when there's a new or revised ISA or post-implementation. So as part of the ISA for LCE process, they are going to monitor and obviously do a post-implementation review. And if they find some areas, how are they going to incorporate it? So it's basically just a maintenance project. First, they're going to approve the project proposal by starting with a exposure draft, just like we would if it was a normal ISA, and get public consultation, right? Put it out for exposure, see what people think, then create the standard and finalize the standard. So again, this takes the solutions developed for new or revised ISAs and then considers the relevance of them, which is basically how they did the original ISAs for LCE. They started with the ISAs and then they tailored them. So essentially, this is going to be a 3-step process. So again, first you consider the relevance of the ISA for LCE, the relevance of the new ISA or revised ISA to the ISAs for LCE. Is there a public interest issue that does impact these smaller organizations? Then you would develop, using an approach that they've already used for writing the original ISAs for LCE, a solution that takes a proportionate response. And then again, an evaluation, determine whether the proposed revisions achieve the project objectives and the purpose of maintaining the standard. So again, this 3-step process is very much what we would expect here. So this is not going to be an every 6-year update or every 5-year update, sort of like what we've seen for the GAAP side of the house, but more of a tailored approach. We're going to write the full ISA, and then we're going to look at it from an LCE perspective and see what we need to adjust accordingly. So very exciting. I always like to report on international standards because I think that there's a lot of interest, particularly in big gap, little gap. And so I thought people would be interested in this. As a reminder, we do have several upcoming level trainings. So if you have staff who are looking for competence, not just compliance, and you really want them to be able to, get it right out in the field, we'll help them in the classroom by giving them real world examples. And so if you want them to be able to do a search for unrecorded liabilities or prepare a reconciliation, join us in our level training. We would love to have them. All right, well, that's a wrap for me on the Genuine Learning blog. I hope that you found this as interesting as I did in going through the original information here. So thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.